Judith, Laurel, Emmerich, Brandy. Wow, lots of faces I have not seen for ages. Eileen, Tracy, Heidi, Melissa. This is so great. And welcome to new faces. One of the exciting things about today's class is we're really merging a lot of you who've been with me for a long time, practicing lucid dreaming, and people who are coming in for the first time into this community, into the practice of lucid dreaming, into the way that we practice lucid dreaming. And so I'm really honored and excited to do this together. As you know, because I'm nearly 6 months pregnant, I have stopped all my actual private clients and I've stopped my programs, but I miss y'all. So I was like, you know what? Let's do these free trainings together, stay connected for my own practice as much as being here in service and support of all of you. So before we dive in today, because we have a mega workshop today. I was like, okay, cool. How can we spend 2 hours together, open to all levels, so we can do a real ground up, inside out approach to looking at our practices, both the nitty-gritty of techniques, but really more important today, we're going to be talking about the context so that whether you are a brand new lucid dreamer or you're like me, you're an old dog who's been doing this for nearly a decade, we can become self-facilitators, which is super important. We'll talk about that today. But before we dive into this big 2 hours, I'd just love to like kind of create a little bit of cohering together. So we're going to take just 2 or 3 minutes just to come into this space together. Remembering that I know with Zoom, we're all on Zoom so much, it is so easy to take for granted that we are actually sitting together. I call the internet the digital astrals, right? Like the digital astral plane. This is kind of the almost the synthetic astral that we've created as human beings, which has its perils, but has its marvelous magic. That all of us here can sit together, 92 of us from all around the world in this exact moment, and be connected through space and through time is absolutely fantastic. And so remembering that as we enter into this learning portal together, even though you're in your own room, every little square here, I see a Louisa, an Oliver, a Dennis, Pam, Karen, every single human being here is sitting in solidarity. And as we begin to do these practices, as we learn together, we sit together in space, both physical space, but connected space through digital astral, but also astral astral, right? So let's just take a couple minutes to connect to that. So start by just closing down the eyes, just staying seated where you are. No need to change your posture. No need to change your breathing. Just being and sitting, existing exactly as you are in this moment. And just checking in with yourself. Are you feeling any agitation, any excitement, or any exhaustion? Where do you find yourself in this moment? And then just being your own intelligent self teacher, self facilitator. How can you use your breath to create a little more balance? If you're feeling the exhaustion of heading a Sunday, do you need to breathe up into the spine, up into the heart? Do you need to breathe some energy into your system? Breathe some inspiration into your system. If you're running and hot from something else and you're a little agitated or a little distracted, do you need to breathe down? Breathing down and releasing the energy down into the ground, coming back into your core, back into your presence, back into your body. You know what you need, so just giving yourself 3 breaths of balance. Final breath. And just taking a moment to sit in gratitude for the access we have to these teachings, Gratitude to my teachers, both from the Western psychological lines of lucid dreaming, the neuroscientists I work with at Northwestern UVA, all the great minds of this Western lineage we work with, and all the great teachers from the shamanic lineages, from the Tibetan Buddhist practices, great masters across many centuries, many millennia who have held these practices of lucid dreaming and dream yoga. That in this moment we have access for the first time in the last millennia. That we get to sit here and enjoy the incredible transmissions from both of these lineages. May we all take what lands for us today and use it effectively in our practices to become more awake, wiser, kinder, freer beings. Just taking one last deep in together, sitting in solidarity. And one big exhale out. Just gently opening the eyes. Fantastic. So let's begin our journey into the foundations of lucid dreaming. And it's interesting because the foundations of lucid dreaming are, like I said, applicable to us whether we are building a practice for the first time, or like many of us here, I know so many of you have been with me in my programs, whether you are revisiting these essentials because your practice is always adapting and changing because you are always adapting and changing. And to do this, I want to first make sure we're all on the same page about what lucid dreaming is. Because I had a really funny conversation with an experienced lucid dreamer, another woman. She's been practicing probably for like 5 or 6 years. And it made me realize that even when you've had lots of practice, there can still sometimes be confusion around what an actual lucid dream is. Because within the range of dreaming, right, our dreaming experiences have this spectrum of non-lucid expression, of prophetic dreams, big dreams that give us massive insights. And so there is a range of experiences we can have. And so understanding that a lucid dream, what we're going to work towards today, specifically exists as a particular band of experience and a particular band of literally, you can see the brain waves of what a lucid dreaming experience is. It's a unique hybridized brain state. And so understanding this sets us up to win if and as we train for lucidity itself. So its basic thing, a lucid dream is a dream where you know that you're dreaming as you are dreaming. That's the classic definition. If we dive deeper into that, what does it mean? Pretty much every human being has had this experience before. We all lucid dream spontaneously. You're in a dream and you're just trucking along, right? Like every night we go to dream, we sleep, we're like, ba, 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 sucked into the dream, no idea that we're asleep, no idea we're dreaming. But then something clues you in. Something strange happens, or it's a nightmare, it's too strong, or you've been training lucidity and you just have the insight and you realize, wait a second, this is a dream. You recognize that you are in the dream state. So you're seeing through the illusion of like, I'm just here in reality, and penetrating through that into, I know that I'm dreaming. And then you're staying in the dream while you maintain that recognition. So essentially, it's like becoming enlightened within your dream. I think about how the Buddha woke up in this, waking state experience. He woke up to the dream, to the illusion of the waking state. He was able to see with full, correct understanding the nature of the reality around him. That's what lucidity is in the dream. That's why it's so powerful. This is why Tibetan Buddhists use lucid dreaming as part of their dream yoga practices to prepare for death and also to practice the pathways of awakening. Because when you get lucid in a dream, whoa, this is a dream, and you maintain and you strengthen that lucidity, you are essentially practicing micro enlightenments, right? Every single time. The Tibetan Buddhists say that if you get lucid even just 7 times, normally 7 is kind of like Tibetan Buddhist code word for like many, but let's say 7, many-ish times, your chances of getting lucid after death, recognizing that you're dying as you're dying and achieving liberation, massively improves. It's a great spiritual benefit. It's a great benefit to the training of the mind if we practice this recognition. So it's really exciting because lucid dreaming, scales from, getting lucid in the dream, simply recognizing it, to building greater and greater degrees of stability and influence, so that as you recognize you're dreaming, you open up this whole world of capacity where you can interact with the dream, stay in the dream, and co-collaborate with the dream to create all kinds of experiences. Whether those experiences are simply pleasurable or they're experiences that are working at the psychological level, or as we'll talk about later, experiences that move to self-transcendence and spiritual practice itself. And just for context, for those of you who have never nerded out with me about the neuroscience of this stuff, I love to always make sure the old school history of this comes to the front. So, back in the olden days, not even that long ago, let's say 40 something years ago, most of the world of psychology was like, no, lucid dreaming is total nonsense. There was a great debate that lucid dreaming was or wasn't real. And people would say, listen, if you're having a so-called lucid dream, you're just dreaming that you know that you're dreaming, but there's no difference. And so a few sets of scientists really set out to prove that it is a unique brain state and that lucid dreaming is real. And what you're looking at here is the first recorded signals ever sent from a lucid dream. This is super cool. So what happened, this is Keith Hearn on the right here. Him and his team, they put a very proficient lucid dreamer into the lab, EEGs, eye monitors. And the theory was, because when you're in REM, when you're dreaming, everything's paralyzed except the eyes and the breath, right? So rapid eye movement. If you get lucid in a dream, you regain the ability to consciously move your eyes. So the theory was, if you get lucid, you should be able to send us consciously directed eye movements that we can pick up in the lab. And we can show, you'll see here, the top here, the red. You can, oh, sorry, yeah, down the bottom here. You can see the brain is in REM. So this guy, fast asleep, in rapid eye movement, dreaming sleep. And then this is it. This happened last in the morning, that they'd been up all night trying to capture this. And you see these big squiggles here, the big green, the big blue. These are the ocular signals. They had little muscle monitors. And sure enough, the guy gets lucid and he sends the pre-described signals, left, right, left, right, left, right, and they pick it up. And so this was the first piece of scientific evidence that lucid dreaming is real. Of course, now we have 40 something years of incredible neuroscience behind this. People have been put, into fMRI scanners, and they watch like what happens to the brain when someone gets lucid. And what they're finding, this is a scientifically verifiable, unique brain state. And I haven't shown this to anybody yet, but I'm so stoked about this. This is mine. So I've been working with these neuroscientists, amazing team in Northwestern University and the University of Virginia, on a few different sort of studies they're doing. This one I was a participant, and we were using the classics. So like you'll see here, the eye movements, which is in red, but we were also using, you'll see down the bottom here, the blue, which was sniffing. So when you begin to do a dream yoga practice in the dream, you go, and it signals with sniffs, kind of like timestamps. And so it was really fun because, I mean, obviously in theory, you go, okay, cool, like this stuff is real. But when you actually get to be in practice in the lab and see that come for yourself, it's really mind-blowing. I say that because if you've never had a lucid dream, what I've noticed is even if you kind of mostly believe in it, sometimes there's a part of us that goes, are these people just talking absolute nonsense? Especially when we start to talk about the dream missions and the kinds of psychological integrations you can do and summoning archetypes. And it starts to sound very much like Harry Potter. So I just want to start by getting us all on the same page that lucid dreaming is a scientifically verified phenomena. And it's really this particular state of consciousness where we recognize that we're dreaming as we are dreaming. So we start there. And then I just want to address right up front. I mean, how many of us are here now? Yeah, over 100. So 114 of us. I'm curious, those here who've been practicing lucid dreaming for more than, I don't know, let's say 18 months. Can you just chuck a Y in the chat? Have you been kind of like learning this, practicing it for more than 18 months? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we got a, yeah, we got a flood. I've been doing this now for nearly 10 years, very intensely. My first 3 years were like immersive training. And if you've been doing this for even just 6 months, you will know one of the core truths of lucid dreaming is that one of the biggest obstacles and challenges to this practice is our own frustration. My friend Charlie Morley, he's a fantastic lucid dreaming teacher. We always joke that lucid dreaming in some ways sets us up to fail because the name, right, lucid dreaming, is so outcome dependent. We go, I want to be a lucid dreamer, which means I want to have a lucid dream, which means I want to have a lucid dream tonight. And what can happen, of course, is enthusiasm can turn very quickly into A-type student achievement. And when we don't get lucid within the time period we think we should be, we can experience disappointment and frustration, confusion. I'm doing all the techniques. Why isn't it working? It worked so well for 2 weeks and now I'm having a drought. And I see this with so many of my clients and God, I mean, with myself all the time. Our own frustration, our own projections of how we think it should go, our own battling with what we think it should be can be some of the biggest challenges we face. And so we're going to approach today. We will get to the nitty-gritty practices and the techniques, but we're going to approach it first from the idea of context, setting the correct context for the content of how we do our practice, because this context changes everything. And it's the difference between a lasting, successful practice and like trying something, getting frustrated, burning out, bailing. So the first part of this frustration is that the dreaming mind, man, it's not a linear experience. Like each of us here right now, like we are in this waking state portal right now. And so, we have waking state Judith and waking state Corinne and waking state Goran and Melissa. And when we are in this particular experience and parameter of our minds, we're super lucky that we have a kind of consistency. There's a kind of rationality, there's a linearity. This allows us to learn and grow and create over time. But it's a certain way of being and thinking. And this way of being and thinking is not the same as the way that the unconscious and dreaming mind works. And so when we, as the conscious minds, go, I'm going to learn lucid dreaming, and I'm going to apply my linear alphabetical numerical model to learning and expect the dream world to behave, we're always in for a bit of a surprise when it doesn't add up X, Y to Z, right? And so part of what we have to learn here is that we, as the conscious mind, during the waking state, learning from this perspective, we have to learn how to open up our way of receiving, experiencing, expressing, to connect with these other less linear ways of being and thinking, to work and find the symbolic register of our unconscious minds, to understand that play and laughter and the trickster energy is just as powerful with dreams as is, doing the work and being disciplined. And so learning this, and then that in the context of the fact that every single one of us has our own subjective soup. We come with this practice, and each of us has, I've seen this now with my clients over and over. I'm like, wow, one practice can work so differently for someone here versus somebody over here. And what moves this person to activate lucidity might be the complete opposite of what this person here has to do. And so one of the reasons we can get so frustrated when we learn this is that we pick up the lucid dreaming book and we're like, okay, cool. Like technique, 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 technique makes sense. We do the techniques and we find that it doesn't necessarily work in that linear way for ourselves. And so what I want to do is kind of reverse this process and say, listen, we'll get to the techniques, but techniques are only scaffolds to create specific causes and conditions. We're just using it. Techniques literally are just ways for us to activate or access certain kinds of causes of conditions in our own system. And when you understand the causes and conditions that allow for lucidity to naturally arise, you can become your own most amazing self-facilitator. If you're a lucid dreamer, you are your own teacher. Because at the end of the day, like I can't come into the dream world with you. Nobody can. Oh, I can hopefully save you some time and we don't have to reinvent the wheel because we can share things together. But ultimately, like you are an oneironaut, right? You're going into the world of your own unconscious world and mind. And only you and God, I suppose, and the dreaming mind can really know what happens there. And so understanding the causes and conditions allows you to go, you know what? I know how I feel about this, or I know where I'm getting stuck. And you can use the different dials to then support that. So each of you, even though we're going to go through the same practices and same techniques today, each of you is going to walk away from this with a slightly different approach or practice. And my encouragement to you is to focus on learning the almost like the inner map of yourself, the inner map of your world, your mind, your dreams, and to use the techniques we learn as little experiments and tools so that you'll find how to play with the dials. And just like with one person, they might need to have way more laughter and play brought into their life, and somebody else needs to have way more consistency and discipline. You will change over time. What my lucid dreaming practice required, a year ago is very different from what it requires now. So flexibility and adaptability are the key, and that's why we're approaching this today from a slightly different perspective. Does that sound good? We up for that? Awesome. And yeah, during this, just so you know, during today's workshop, I'm going to pause at multiple points to do Q&A. So after each big section, we can have some chance to kind of go back and forth a little bit. I've tried to create more space in the session so we can have a bit more of that time today. I will be less good at keeping track of the questions in the chat just because of things, but please feel free to put them in the chat. And if I miss them, just repost them. But let's start with causes and conditions. There's two main, I'd say, states of being that if you are cultivating these and these become a natural part of the way that you live and express yourself, lucidity in your dreams will naturally arise. And then the third part of it is supercharging that by connecting the two states and conditions. So the first one is awesome. It's overlooked, it's undertaught, it's my favorite. It's the connectedness that you have with your dreaming mind and the safety you feel with your dreaming mind. So connectedness and safety. And they're two different things. They're related, but they're two different things. You want both of these online to have this kind of thriving, open relationship with your dreaming mind. And when you think about connectedness and safety, it's kind of this idea of the relationship you have. And I often say when I'm teaching this, to imagine that your dreaming mind is an actual relationship. We're very relationally intelligent, like all of us. We're human beings. We've had to live in a web of other people. And so when I say to you, if you had to describe your relationship with your dreaming mind as a relationship with a person, are you intimate lovers with your dreaming mind? Are you kind of distant acquaintances? Are you adversaries? We have different ways of feeling that we're in relationship with our dreams, depending on what's coming up for us. And especially for people who've had challenges, right? Like recurring nightmares, or if you're a child who had a lot of sleep paralysis, or you didn't have a lot of help processing the big dreams or nightmares that came up for you. For a lot of people who had that experience, dreams become something they either push away, like, I don't know, it's like a third removed cousin they never speak to, or they become, like, in some ways, this sort of slightly scary monster behind the closet. And so it's important for us to notice, like, do we have any aversion to our dreams? Or do we have any kind of over clinging to our dreams? I remember someone once described their dream as like a celebrity that they're starstruck by every time they see them and just wish they could spend more time with, right? Like, do we have a sense that, oh, my dreams are so precious, but they're inaccessible to me? Noticing how we actually internally relate is a great starting place. Because what we want to create is this feeling of like secure, collaborative partnership. You are your dreaming mind is you. It's a different expression of your psychological being. But we exist, this is why it's so cool. The dreaming mind and the conscious mind are not these two separate things. One's the night, one's the day. They're always intermingling and overlapping. And so the more we can come into like, whoa, what if we could be an amazing team? What if my unconscious and dream mind and my conscious mind don't have to be at odds with each other, trying to battle it out, trying to make it work, trying to, you're going to make you get me lucid. Like, what if it was instead this feeling of working collaboratively? And so connectedness is required for that. And this is where your relationship skills come in. Thinking about the relationship you have with your dreaming mind, if there was a human relationship, how would you improve it? The cool thing about being in a relationship is that we have ways to repair. If we've had ruptures in that relationship, if we're afraid of our dream mind, we can repair. If you want to be closer, we can, invite that intimacy in. So here we can leverage the skills we already have, knowing how to build stronger relationships by saying, well, listen, any relationship, if you listen, if you're attentive, if you're non-judgmental, if you're open, if you initiate, all the things that could improve an actual human relationship, all of these things will improve the connectedness to your dreaming mind. And the techniques, like some of the foundational techniques we'll go through, the reason why they're foundational is that they're all just based around keeping this amazing baseline of connectedness. But the reason I want to frame it as connectedness is because something I've noticed with myself and clients is that your creative capacity to know how to reconnect and to create connectedness is so much better and so far beyond the standard techniques. You can invent your own lucid dreaming tactics and techniques based on connectedness. So we're starting there, connectedness. The next part of this is safety. And this can be a little trickier because the dreaming mind, like we mentioned, doesn't play by the conventions of the polite linear mind. Sometimes we find in our dreams things that are disturbing to us, right? Sometimes we find things in our dreams that are kind of shadow, repressed, disowned elements of our experience, our childhoods, our minds, our fears, our hopes, our dreams. The dreaming mind is this incredible collection, this honest collection of the parts of ourselves. And so it can be really easy for the conscious mind to feel afraid of the dreaming mind. We can be afraid of what we're going to find in there. We can be afraid of facing whether it's a recurring dream from our childhood or, a super common fear, people who are practicing lucid dreaming, especially through the advanced stages. What if I lose touch with reality? What if I'm going crazy? What if lucid dreaming makes me mad? What if I don't know what's real anymore, right? We're going to talk about obstacles towards the end of this, including fear. But for now, just taking a second to feel into, is there any fear in your system when it comes to your dreams? Is there any fear you have about whether you'll be safe exploring your dreams? Whether you have what it takes to face the nightmares? And if we have any kind of holding, subtle holding like that, if we don't trust the dreaming mind, if we think, God, the dreaming mind is a lot. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to go into my unconscious mind. I'm going to dig around in there. Like, I don't know what monsters I'm going to find. If we're carrying that as an active energy, it's hard to be in good relationship. There's always a part of us that's going to be doing this, right? If I'm like, I'm dear friends with Martine, and if I was a little bit afraid of Martine, every time I saw her, I was a little bit afraid of her, it'd be harder for me to be a full collaborative teammate. So there's a few litmus tests we can use for this, right? To check in, like how connected, how safe do we feel? You can do this with me now. One, when you fall asleep at night, how do you feel going into your dreams? It's beautiful because as we fall asleep, we enter into the hypnagogic, we enter into this kind of more liminal, openal spaces. Things become a little more emotional, a little less linear. And sometimes we can have a little bit more honesty about maybe where we are, right? We could have a really cool intention about, I want to do this tonight in my dreams. And then as the darkness comes, as we go into that more liminal space, we might notice, oh, is there any contraction? Is there any part of us as we fall asleep that feels a little bit afraid? Or is there any part of us that as you fall asleep feels doubt? My practice lucid dream is out there. This is a classic. If you've done the induction techniques and let's say 10 nights in a row, you've been like, tonight I get lucid in my dreams, and then you don't. The 11th night, you say, tonight I'm gonna get lucid in my dreams, and a little voice goes, yeah, whatever. That's what you said last night, right? We have this internal doubt and so as we fall asleep, it's a really good litmus test just to see, is there anything obstructing how connected you feel or how safe you feel? So tonight, as you fall asleep, that's a really good place just to like, just check. That's number one. The second great litmus test for connection and for safety, when you wake up and you're beginning to recall your dreams, or let's say you wake up out of a dream, how do you react? What are your reactions on awakening to your dreams? Sometimes, even if it's a quote unquote good dream, like as the conscious mind comes online and it looks at the dream, is there ever a part of your mind that's like, what's this fucking nonsense? What is that? Like some part of your mind that's like, why am I writing this down? Oh, and then I went to the thing and there was a person, there was a tree, and there was a bird in the tree, and I'm like, our conscious mind can be unbelievably judgy and reductive about our dreams. So it could be as subtle as like a slight kind of judgment towards the dream. And it could go as strong as real aversion. You have a dream where something offensive happens. And this happens, right? Like you have a dream where you have some kind of sexual relationship with somebody where that's just like, what? And you wake up out of that, your conscious mind goes, like, no, not that. And what does it do? It pushes it away, it judges it. And how many times, how many times even experienced dreamers just omit the dreams they don't like? Just, I'm not going to write that bit down. I don't want to put that in my dream diary, right? Judgment, fear, aversion. And the challenge with this is if we allow this kind of like polite linear conscious mind to be judgmental and reactive to the dreaming mind, not appreciating that the dreaming mind is symbolic, it's not literal, it speaks in a different language, it's completely open and honest. What happens to that relationship? Like imagine if you're talking to a friend and you share something really vulnerable with that friend and they go, oh, no, don't talk to me about that. Not very connected, right? And so how we react upon waking can be a big part of how we can see where we are in our connection and how we can repair that connection. If we can learn to hold, you know what, my dreams are symbolic, they're emotional, they're non-linear, they don't obey by the laws of conscious mind politeness. And I choose to show up with a kind of unconditional curiosity, openness. I'm going to write down every dream without judgment because I'm listening. I'm a good friend to my dreaming mind. I'm attentive, I'm attuned, and I'm listening. So, how you wake up. And then the third litmus test is how you relate to your dreams during the day. And this is one I've really been working on because I think this is my weakest. Because, the illusion is so strong. Hey, it's like, I really, my conscious mind really feels that dreams are something that happen over there. If I just fall into that, I go, okay, well, dreaming's over there, waking's here, and they're two separate things. But if we learn how to relate to our dreams, like we talked about, as part of ourselves, that our dreaming mind is something that's ever present, which it is. It's the unconscious mind. I mean, this is why when you're in a lucid dream, some of the coolest lucid dreams I've had, I've been able to summon imagery or music from any point in my life, and my mind can play it back to me with 100% accuracy. It can play a song that I can't even hum to you now. I once called out for the Edgar Allan Nimrod. It's a beautiful classical piece. And I couldn't even hum it to you now if I tried. I'd have to try to remember it. But my dream could play it with absolute precision because it's there watching, participating, and part of our life every single day. And so when we separate the two artificially and go, well, my dreams are there and my waking is here, that's also not the strongest way we can be connected. So getting curious about how do you talk about your dreams to people? Do you dismiss them? Or do you indulge in the fear around them and the judgment around them? Do you have ways of bringing the dreaming state into the day as well as trying to bring the waking state into the night? And so looking at how we integrate the experience of a day. Serendipity is another great one, right? So like, can you notice the serendipities that connect the dreaming world, the waking world? Can you look at the dreaming mind and go, wow, look how last night my dreams symbolically and emotionally reflected the thoughts of my day. Wow, look how the thoughts of my day, the patterns of my behavior reflect the tones and the themes of the night. The more you can make bridges and connect and understand, the more you bring these two experiences into harmony, which is reality. And that strengthens that connection. Now, many of you, actually, I can see some of your faces here, I've worked with you personally, have really, really strong connections with your dream world. Your dream world and your waking world have this beautiful, connected, synchronistic quality. That is absolutely fantastic. That's what we're going for. So, and again, so many of the practical techniques that you've learned, when you get this, like, I'm going for connectedness, I'm going for synchronization and harmony, you'll go, that's why we do that technique. And you'll know if you feel out of sync, what to do. So, connectedness and safety. And use those 3 points: falling asleep, waking up during the day, as ways to explore that for yourself. So, that's the first cause and condition. And so maybe just taking a minute now, feeling into for yourself, naturally, just the way you are right now, the way that you do your practices, or if you haven't practiced before, just where you find yourself, scale of, let's say, 1 to 10, let's start with connectedness. How connected do you feel with your dreaming mind? And put in the chat for me. 0 to 10, how connected? We'll do safety separately. So just think here, connection. Are you in active friendship, or are you feeling really disconnected? Amazing. So a super range from 2 to 10 to 8, 9, 3. Excellent. And yeah, most people are going to be in the middle. And this is what's super cool. Because like when you're in the middle, you're like, oh, like I don't have a problem with my dreaming mind. We're cool. But you haven't yet built that like delicious partnership, which is where this goes. So it's great. And if you're on the 2 end, this is the other thing, right? Just like when there are sometimes the worst ruptures in a relationship, a moment of repair can turn a 2 to a 10. So wherever you find yourself, it's just good to know, and then you'll be able to self-assess what techniques you want to use to improve that. Fantastic. Okay, so then safety. And now this is a really interesting one. So then feeling into your safety with your dreaming mind. And some of the ways to feel into this is, when you are experiencing a nightmare, do you have any trouble falling asleep? If you're doing lucid dream practices and you get a dream mission and you're like excited about it, do you notice any internal resistance to what might come up? Just noticing, like, let's say 0 to 10 again, 0 being I'm terrified of what I'm going to find, 10 being like, bring me my greatest monster. Yeah, let's go. How safe do you feel with your dreaming mind? Cool. Again, big range: 10, 9, 8, 3, 7. Good. You've got some really strong safety here. And then some people who are down there going, "Oh, I don't know if I trust this." And Kitty, you're saying you're yet to meet your dream mind, but think about it more like uh, your feeling about entering the dream space. Because I've just noticed this, like sometimes people, like actually all of us, we usually want, okay, I'm going to get lucid, and people usually go for the big guns. I'm going to summon my highest self, or I'm going to find my dead loved one, or like we go in big, right? Like we're ready. And sometimes when we do that and we haven't created the right scaffolding of like relationship and safety, we go, yes, yes, yes. And then some other part of us is like, hell no. Some part of our nervous system is like, you are not doing that. And what happens is we can be fighting ourselves. So again, nothing wrong if you're 3. Nothing doesn't like this just means you know where we are, so you know what tools and techniques are going to be the most effective for you. Because what you really want in an ideal world is like you want to be sitting 10 connected, 10 safe. If you're connected and you're safe, your whole dream world is open to you. Okay, so that's fantastic. So then next we can look at the other cause and condition which is necessary. Because I have had a lot of clients come to me who come in with great connection and great safety. They've had really rich lives. Or like, for instance, people who write primarily and only on non-lucid dreaming. You have people who are profound explorers of the dream realm who never do lucid dreaming. But they have these amazing, rich relationships with their dreaming mind, and they find ways and they explore in that realm. But they never get lucid. So simply having an amazing, connected, safe relationship with your dreaming mind is not enough for lucidity and the practice, that specific brain state activation of lucid dreaming. The other cause and condition is lucidity itself. And I like to think of lucidity, I mean, because it's obviously it's a word that can have different interpretations. From a kind of more nerdy perspective, I like to think of it as metacognitive awareness. So if you look at the brain studies, all the cool neuroscience around lucid dreaming, when people get lucid, the part of the brain that actually activates, that comes online as you have the recognition of lucidity, is the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's a part of the brain that's associated with metacognitive awareness. And metacognitive awareness is like the ability to, to know what is happening as it's happening. Metacognitive monitoring. So if you're meditating, right, this is why meditation can be really helpful. Part of meditative process is learning how to have this awareness of your thoughts as they're happening, right? It's like a delamination of your awareness from the compulsive activity of the mind. So instead of sitting in meditation and being like, okay, meditating and meditating, peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. Thank you, love you, love. And you're just like in the verbal narration of the meditation, right? You might have the whatever practice you're doing, but there's a part of you that's come out and is monitoring that. So for instance, when you get distracted, it's your metacognitive awareness that goes, I'm distracted, brings it back. And so we talk about the delamination from the attentional system, which is the part of the mind that, is focused like a little, and your awareness, which sits as a much greater, much faster ability to experience and process. But most of the time, our awareness and our attention are fused. And so metacognitive monitoring, metacognitive practice is essentially, yeah, like the ability to be aware of what's happening as it's happening. And it's a part of the brain, and it's cool because you can strengthen it. And when you get lucid because you are becoming metacognitively aware of the dream. Wait a second, whoa. Like the dream is your thoughts elaborated. The metacognition is the awareness of, whoa, this is the dream. And so that metacognitive awareness, if we work on that during the day, if we learn how to brighten our lucidity, we can use them together, brighten our lucidity during the waking state, we are sharpening that kind of that tool, that blade, that perspective. That's the power and the recognition that will get us lucid within the context of the dream. And so having a rich relationship with the dream sets the foundation for the dream's help, the richness of the dream, your ability to collaborate, your memories of the dreams, your connect, but the lucidity is the activation. And so in the same way that I have people who are like super, let's say, metacognitively aware, you have people who are, I mean, like monks, right, who've trained in all kinds of day waking state practices that brighten this presence, this lucidity all day long, but they have no connection to their dreaming mind. No, I don't remember my dreams. They're also not getting lucid. So what we have here is two really important conditions and causes that we want to connect together. They work synergistically. And so for a lot of people, like you might be, I mean, let's go back to lucidity for a second. Litmus testers for this. You're like, oh, am I like a lucid person? Do I have good metacognitive monitoring? You can just ask yourself during a day, how many minutes or hours or days go by without you kind of realizing where you are or what you're doing. It's kind of like when you get blinkered into really fully just buying into and believing the dream in front of us, the waking dream. So here's how we know we've not lucid, right? You're getting upset and angry at people. Just like in a non-lucid dream. We're getting upset and angry at people because we're fully bought into the narrative of our waking state life with no space, no monitoring, emotional reactivity. Like these are all things that kind of come up when we're not, we don't have like the space to really choose our responses. When you are really present and lucid in your waking state life. You'll have these experiences, right? Like you're having an amazing day, you're connected to all of life and you feel bright and awake and aware. When something bad happens, your capacity to deal with that is so different. Oh no, okay, cool. Well, let's see what we can figure out. Or are you sure you're feeling okay? Like we have a completely different set of reactions. Whereas, like, I know for me, if I've been doing spreadsheets all day and I'm like, "Do, do, 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 do," and then I come up and someone like, I have cows that walk around outside my house. I don't know, it's like all the cows have like parked me and I'm like, oh, bloody cows, right? Versus like, cows. There's cows in my life in front of my house. Like, what? Look at the cows. They're so beautiful, right? So you can check with your emotional reactions. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling, depressed, deactivated, angry, like any of these kinds of like compulsive emotional reactions are usually signs to us that we're really invested in the dream, the waking state dream. And just like when you get lucid in like the nighttime dream, let's say you have a nightmare, most of you will have experienced this. 1/3 of all spontaneous lucid dreams happen because of nightmares. If you're in a nightmare, the reason it's a nightmare is because you think it's happening, right? There's really a man with a gun there, or there's really a monster there. Or the other night I had a dream that I had murdered somebody in my 20s and hidden the body, and that the government had found out I was going to go to jail. Fascinating symbology for us to unpack later, but the terror in my heart of like my whole life being over because I believed it was true. The minute you get lucid in a dream, wait, but this is a dream, all the fear goes away, right? Ah, it's a dream. Oh my God, the man with a gun, it's just me. I didn't kill anybody. It's a dream. Like instantly, like our attitude, our capacity to relate to what's in front of us changes. So we can see that in real time with a dream. It's the same thing with our waking state, right? So I know it, I suck at this. Like, let's be real. Like, I get so stressed about things because I'm like, how am I going to make this work? Or da 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 da. Because I'm so invested in the reality of what's happening, I lose my lucidity. Strengthening the metacognitive monitoring, the lucidity allows instead to have some space. Wow, I'm in this incredible experience of life, this temporary, beautiful human life that I'm having, coordinated by God knows what kind of complicated energies and forces. And look at this interesting circumstance I'm dealing with. How can I show up the best in this moment? If this was a lucid dream, how would I show up, right? So it changes our capacity. So good signs if you are having lots of lucidity during the day, spontaneous joy, wonder, compassion for other people. These are all things that naturally emerge when we're feeling connected and awake and lucid. If you have an emotional reaction, if you have strong metacognitive monitoring, you will catch that reaction and go, wow, I'm feeling a lot of anger. Like, let me feel that instead of projecting it outwards. And so, what we really want to check is, as well as having this powerful connected relationship with the dreaming mind, what is our waking state lucidity like? That also has to be strong. And if these two things are working, natural lucid dreaming will just pop as a result. So just taking a second, like I'm kind of thinking about your own life right now. What does your daily habit of mind look like? Is lucidity during the day kind of the rare exception? Like, would you have a moment where you suddenly go, wow? Is it looking into your child's eyes, your partner's eyes, your animal's eyes that brings you back into the present moment? Or do we find that we can go hours and hours and hours or days and days and days without getting lucid to our lives? Just having a feel into that for yourself. I found pretty much every single person, maybe there was like one person in my entire life of working with people, but most of us need to strengthen this. And it can be some ways the best part of the practice because even before you start getting lucid in your dreams, when you start doing the practices that bring you back into the present moment for your life, it's really beautiful what happens. Cool. So those are the two main causes and conditions: connectedness and safety to the dreaming mind, brightness of lucidity, of metacognitive awareness during the day, and then the trick is connecting the two. The trick is like learning how to directly connect the experience of the dream with the brightness of the lucidity, the recognition, the capacity for recognition with the world of the dream. And when these two things start to be interconnected, right? Whoa, this is when lucidity becomes, you know, so frequent and so effortless because there is two thriving causes and conditions and a connection between them. And that's what we get into with the practices. But I just want you to encourage you to think of your practice from this perspective, trusting, which can be hard to do sometimes, but really trusting that lucidity has this kind of natural emergent experience. When you create the right causes and conditions in your mind, it happens naturally. And when you create the right causes and conditions in your mind and you have the techniques and tools that dial it up, you have a lot more collaborative influence over not just how often you get lucid, but more importantly, your capacity when you're lucid to stabilize the dream, to have longer lucid dreams, and to be able to work skillfully within the dreams. But what's really important first is to understand the causes and conditions are first. The techniques we're going to learn, the only reason that they're actually good is because they scaffold you to create the causes and conditions. So think of it that way around. Whenever I'm doing a practice diagnostic now, I look at connectedness and safety, and I looked at brightness of lucidity. I first figure out what is the soup of my experience? And then I go, cool, what do I need to support with what technique? Amazing. So then, here, if there's especially because we've got some good pros in our audience today, looking at it like this way here, so linking this into a 24-hour cycle using this language, there are these amazing called like points of intervention or points of influence during the day. So obviously one big point of influence is the morning, right? And I like to think of this as the point of attention, paying attention. So the morning, as we're emerging out of our dreams, this is the time where if we pay attention to our dreams, if we listen, the capacity to have an amazing relationship with them, but also to learn the information, the knowledge, the detail, the symbology of our dreams to make us effective practitioners. So thinking of the morning point as an opportunity to pay attention, moving into the day, and this is where we have the opportunity to build this waking lucidity. So just like, you know, the momentum of our mind, we practice it through the repeated habits of how we think, of how we behave, and the momentum of the mind that we create during the day goes into the momentum of the night of the dream. I really love this idea that your dreams are your daytime thoughts, but elaborated out into high production Netflix shows. You know what I mean? Like, but they're not like there's a very similar through line. When you start to break things down below the kind of phenomenological content expression, look at the emotional tones, the emotional themes of the dreams, you'll be blown away at the parallels between that and whatever internal content you're working with during the day. So, likewise, if all day long we say, you know what, I'm going to commit to practicing waking lucidity. I'm going to recognize where I am. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be metacognitively aware. These are the ways that I'm going to behave and show up over and over and over again. I'm going to retrain the momentum of my mind. That momentum will flow into the nighttime. And suddenly you'll be in the dreams and you'll just be getting spontaneously lucid. You'll just know, you'll recognize because you're bringing that same quality of self-reflective awareness. So if the morning is attention to the dreams, the daytime is all about the cultivation of this habit of lucidity. And then nighttime, as we move back into the cycle of sleep, your nighttime practices are all about intention. This is where you get to bring the positive, the momentum of the day, or even if it was a shit day, you can just cut it clean and go, you know what? Cutting it clean. I'm going to do 15 minutes of really intentional practice before sleep. You have the capacity to set an intention that influences the experience of the night massively. And again, we'll get into the techniques for this, but there's so many different techniques you use before bedtime, but all of them come down to the strength of intention. Even like the clearing exercises we'll do today around like clearing the body with the breath or this or that. That all comes down to the power of intention because we have to clear the nervous system first so we can have that clarity and that effectiveness. And whatever that intention is, and again, this is why it's so cool. You, as your own teacher, facilitator, you have infinite permission to play with how you want to use that as you go into that, especially as you go into the hypnagogic state, which is the one just before you're falling asleep. Images are arising. It's kind of a half here, half there before you drop into sleep. The same brain state as when you're in hypnosis. It's literally a hypnotic state. And whatever seeds you plant there, whatever intention you set, has dramatic implications and impact on the whole night. So if you go to sleep right after, like, you watch some TV show and then you just like close your eyes and go to sleep, dreaming about the TV show, like most people, or you're worried about something as you fall asleep. Oh, cool. I spent all night dreaming about the thing I was worried about. Like we have this amazing ability. It's called proximate karma, right? That's the Tibetan Buddhist term for it. Proximate karma. The thing you do just before sets a cause and effect in motion. So the ability then to set intention and then go into sleep and dream. And of course, during sleep and dream, there are practices we can use, working with the sleep cycle, working with interrupting the sleep cycle in order to help activate lucidity. So there are practices here too. But, you don't even need to do that necessarily. That's going to be a very personalized thing. I'm not a big fan of sleep disruption, but that's just because of my system. For other people, it's amazing, right? But these three here, the attention of the morning, waking lucidity during the day, intention at night, these are really powerful. So curious from anybody in the audience who has a feeling about this, what are some of the practices? And this is not a trick question. I'm asking. It's going to be the core practices, but also anything else you've ever experienced. What are some of the practices that could support attention? Let's start there. What are some of the ways that we can pay attention to the dreaming mind? Like practices we might do, techniques we might do. Meditation, journaling, dream journal. Yes. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Prayer, music, yoga nidra. Well, the cool thing about this, and this is why I'm opening it up this way, is that whatever way works for you to pay attention to the dreaming mind is going to be the right answer. But like here, well, actually, let me get back here. Dream journaling is the classic, right? And so dream journaling being the way that we capture, pay attention to, and listen to our dreaming mind. And the reason why dream journaling, I think, has just been tried and true, has become such a staple is because when you wake up out of the dreams, it can be so easy if we move to something else, even if it's meditation or yoga nidra or anything like that, it can be so easy to lose the threads of the dream. And so dream journaling essentially encourages us to spend the very first moments of waking state turning our mind back to the dream to do that. And building on that, of course, is like, uh, sorry, my brain, pregnancy brain, man, it's a whole thing. Dream science, right? Like using our dream journals to understand the symbolic language. And we'll get into these practices in detail, but yeah, so dream journaling. And then the Tibetan Buddhists, they didn't write down their dreams, right? But they did contemplation. So they would sit and they do what you would do with a journal, but in their minds, going over the night's experiences, going over the dreams, going over detail. Blah, blah. So they would do an internal process around it. So if you have a meditation practice that does that, the key thing here is attention to the dreaming mind. Excuse me. What about waking lucidity? What might be some of the ways that we can improve our awareness, our presence, our metacognition during the day? And yes, Jerry, don't worry, we will get to the classic Don Juan. Yeah, right. Mantra, state checks, breath, vipassana. Excellent. Post-it notes. Yeah, that's right. The reminders, right? Meditation, being a curious observer of yourself. That's, yeah, exactly. Like actually being metacognitively aware. Meditation, journaling. had a client who used dance as one of her ways of activating lucidity. When she was dancing, she was fully present and alive and in her body and in the world, right? Art for some people, singing for other people. Like, this is the cool thing is you can ask yourself, like, what activates your lucidity? When do you come fully back into the present moment? Or like, when are you able to really create the peace and the grounding to delaminate off from the narrative of who you are and the normal distraction of the mind and just hold a open awareness, right? There's so many beautiful meditation practices that specialize in improving metacognitive strength. Oh, rainbow refractive glasses. Yes. Prompts, beauty, qigong. Excellent. Standing on one leg. Excellent. Prayer. And this is why I really love doing it this way because, you know, while the foundational, like practical techniques work, I am amazed at the range and variety and the effectiveness when we make our own practices. Okay, and then for the last one, nighttime practice, intention. What are some of the practices that we can do as we approach sleep that would help us set the intention for the night? Okay, Marian, mantra again. Yeah, mantra. Oh, Neville Goddard practices. Yes. Neville Goddard was really big in understanding that using the time just before sleep was one of the most powerful ways to impact your life. Reflection of the day, breath work, meditation, 21 breath countdown, using a specific intention, visualization. Excellent. So these are all brilliant ideas. Invitation, invite my desired experience to join me in my dreams. Affirmations, excellent. Asking, prayer, yes. So I think of like intention as like this is where we have the opportunity to almost, if we're a team member with our dreaming mind, which we are, this is our collaborative request. We're essentially saying to the dream, hey, this, like, this is the energy I'm bringing in. This is the experience I'd like to create. This is the seed I'm planting. This is the proactive time. The morning is like the receptive, non-judgmental, listening, attention. This is the proactive. So in terms of, let's say, classical lucid dreaming techniques, which we will return to now, yeah, so we recall, dream recall or lucidity induction. That comes in here in the intention. So using a specific induction phrase, repeating it with strength to plant an intention. Dream journal is an amazing way to capture the dreams in the morning, to pay attention. Leveraging our dream signs. State checks are a lucidity in the daytime practice. Inspiring mission bridges all of them. Wake back to bed or doing the date nights is a sleep and dream practice. Lucidity boosting activities, so like doing the daydream dates. So during the daytime, I say to people, if you're like really having a drought and you're doing the techniques, you could do something fun. Like go do something that boosts your lucidity, something creative, something pattern breaking. Challenge yourself, wake yourself up, shake yourself out of the kind of like rigmarole of just ordinary life. Clearing obstructions and obstacles. Sometimes what's required for our practice is actually to be willing to look at where we are stuck physiologically, psychologically, spiritually. Working with a dream motivation manifesto. So something here about context again. If we are doing all the techniques and we have a good relationship with our dream mind, but it doesn't seem to be firing, do you have a strong enough reason for why you want to do this? So we're going to look at all of those techniques in detail. Before I do that, I saw an interesting question I just want to answer quickly. Yeah, so Talia, thank you for bringing this up because I know, again, easy to get confused. What's the difference between a lucid dream and a vivid dream, right? And again, this is why lucidity as a word can sometimes be misleading because what does lucid mean? Like, whoa, it's like bright and vivid. And so a vivid dream would be something like that. You're like, whoa, it was so detailed. It felt so real. It was so memorable. I woke up out of it. It was like, wow. And we can have these big dreams, like the Buddhists will call them like big dreams, where sometimes you will even receive incredible teaching insight from out there, right? So it's not even just like it wasn't some nonsense dream that you felt, "Ugh." It's like, whoa, this was significant. That's still a non-lucid dream. And super important to say here, non-lucid dreams are incredible. I don't believe that non-lucid dreams are just noise. Some of them are our mind processing and dealing with stuff in the momentum of thoughts. Other times, non-lucid dreams come together to teach us things, show us things, heal things. And so just know that even if you are a very, very experienced lucid dreamer who's getting lucid every single night, you will still be having the majority of your dreams be non-lucid, right? So like even if you're getting lucid a few times a night for weeks, you're still having a lot of non-lucid dreams. So let's not dismiss non-lucid dreams, first of all, but understanding the distinction. So what you were saying, hinting to Talia, exactly. A lucid dream is that you are consciously aware that you're dreaming. You will literally have the thought, I'm in a dream. Like, this is actually a dream. And it can range, right? Like, lucidity isn't just one on off switch. You can have a lucid dream where you have the recognition or pre-lucid. I think this is a dream. This is weird. I think I'm dreaming. Am I dreaming? Right? So you start to have like pre-lucidity where you start to question your reality. And then you might have the insight. This is definitely a dream. Yeah, this is a dream. Okay. And sometimes you'll have the insight, but because you haven't learned the skills yet to brighten that lucidity in the dream or how to stabilize it, you might have the awareness you're dreaming and either just not know what to do. And so you kind of just keep going along with the dream, or you don't even know how to impact the dream, but you're kind of aware that you're dreaming. So you're lucid, but you're not at that stage yet where you've learned how to use your lucidity to collaborate. Or you might get lucid for a moment. I think I'm lucid. This is a dream. And then completely lose it or wake up instantly, right? So when we first start like with the lucid dreaming, activating the lucidity is the first thing. Activate the recognition. Once you're activating the recognition, we learn how to stabilize that recognition, how to stabilize the dream, how to stay longer in the dream, which we'll talk about. But it's very important we all understand that distinction. Cool. Let me have a quick look at this. Yeah, Margarita, we're going to get to what we do in our dreams as part of the techniques as well. Okay, cool. Kyle, you say almost all of what you consider lucid experiences are preceded by a full body vibration experience before you enter lucidity. Is that normal? Yeah, depending on how you're entering into it. So if you are going through sleep paralysis, for instance, you will almost always have some experience of vibration. And it's kind of cool if you've ever explored the branching paths of astral projection and lucid dreaming. Often when we're in this sleep state, we're going into the dream, we can enter into sleep paralysis, and we have these kinds of like the energy body can be like, ooh, and you can kind of jump out of your body. It's a different type of training. Or if you don't have that as an active technique, you'll usually just go straight into a dream, into a lucid dream. But you'll go in with this conscious awareness, like, whoa, this is a dream. So that's if you're already having that naturally, there's a technique called wild wake induced lucid dream or falling asleep conscious that can help you train that as a skill so that you can actually use it very intentionally, which is cool. All right, let's do the techniques. So let's get into the actual nitty gritty, ground up practices together. And I'm gonna go through the technique and then open it up to questions about each technique as we go, so that we can all feel confident of what we're working with. So first, the techniques I'm gonna approach today are obviously a small set of techniques amongst a massive body of work. So these are the foundations. And these are foundations that if you have not built a practice yet, make sure you build each of these in. It can take a minute to get the hang of them, but if you build them in to start with, as they work together synergistically, it's going to really make the practice work. If you are here revisiting your practice, this is an excellent time to check in with yourself, like, which of these techniques could I benefit from dialing up a little, adapting, changing, or completely releasing, right? So starting with the bookmarks, super important bookmarks, which are the pre-sleep inductions and the dream journal. And this goes towards cultivating that delicious connected relationship with the dreaming mind. And the pre-sleep inductions can really also go towards the sharpening of lucidity and intention. But this here, like no matter whether you've been doing this for 20 years or 2 days, if you commit to working with the bookends, some kind of intentional entry into sleep, some kind of open-minded, curious attention to the dreams in the morning, your dreaming world will blossom. And so, first thinking about dream journals, super simple. If you haven't ever had a dream journal before, I'm just going to give you the 101. It's exactly what it sounds like. You just want to have something to write your dreams down in first thing in the morning. My recommendation would be either, if you're someone who does pen and paper, awesome, have a little book. If you find that hard, like me, because I don't have handwriting, mine's hieroglyphics, I use a notes app on my phone. What you want to do here, though, is you want to set yourself up in a way that as you're like emerging out of sleep, it's close and right at hand because we want to set ourselves up to win. And part of the dream journaling process, because again, thinking of this as the point of writing a journal isn't to be creating a historical, accurate record of your dreams. It's about paying attention, teaching your conscious mind, my dreams are important, teaching an attitude of curiosity, open-mindedness, learning about your dreams. And so, with that in mind, one of the first things we always do when we dream journal, I say it's the first thing you do is nothing, just absolutely nothing. When you wake up out of your sleep in the morning, you want to stay perfectly still, especially if you're coming out of a dream. Keeping your body posture in bed can be incredibly helpful. If you roll over, you might notice the dream goes away. Roll back again, you find it. So just, it's a funny thing where body position seems to be supportive. So if you can learn to just stay still, and you'll notice when you wake up, the instinct with waking up is to immediately move your attention to the outside. So we train ourselves to stay still and to turn the attention back towards the dreaming mind. Where was I? What was I feeling? What was I thinking? Who was I just with? And just allowing, like, marinate, like lay in bed and like don't grasp too hard. Just like lay there receptively, marinating, and you'll be amazed what starts to come back to you. You might catch, I think I was in Spain. I was in Spain. Oh, with John, and then and you might catch the thread of your dreams, which leads to another one. But this is the whole thing of being receptive and attentive and patient, right? So I like to lie there and I like to marinate my dreams until I feel they've come back enough to me that I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Then once you've kind of got that, and let's say you've done this and you can't quite find anything, no worries. Even just feeling into like, can I catch a slight emotional tone? Like, was it a bit like stressful or fun or sexy or like what was it, right? Even if you can just catch the wisp of a tone, then you're going to reach over and grab your dream journal. And what you're going to write down is just to capture what you have remembered. And you'll notice this, like as you start to write, more and more will come back to you. Now, again, with dream journaling, this isn't a historical record, right? So like you could write as much as you want if you have time for that. But like for me, like if I wrote all my dreams down, I'd be there for 3 hours, right? I'd be like, and I'm so I capture the key points. And the key points for me are, you know, emotional tone. What was the feeling of the dream? It's the most important thing for me. What was the feeling of the dream? Where was I? What were some of the key things? So just capturing the like 5 bullet points, boom, 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 boom. It's all you need, even for like a complex dream. And again, here, being true, and this can be hard, being true to what actually happened. So not feeling like you're going to edit the dreams because the conscious mind is embarrassed, being willing to write it down, being willing to be kind to yourself, being willing to be open-minded. If something was scary, like taking care of yourself enough that you can feel a bit of calibration and then writing it down. The more you can be honest and engaged, the better, because this is all about paying attention. And once you build a habit of that every single day, so your dream journal is every single morning, but it can be 3 to 5 minutes, right? This doesn't have to be a massive exercise. And the next part of that, which is one of the great techniques, is using your dream journal to recognize your dream signs. And this is which starts to leverage us into lucidity, which is kind of learning the language of your dreams. And a dream sign is just that. It's a sign that you were dreaming, something that should have clued you in, right? So You can have one-off dream signs, like let's say you were in a dream and there was a massive three-story talking hamster. And you're like, yeah, probably should have realized I was in a dream. Three-story talking hamster. That's a one-off big dream sign, right? So they can be big, weird things that happen in the dream. They can also be thematic. So, for instance, all of us here are like grown-ass adults. If you dream you're back in primary school, that's a dream sign, and that's a thematic sign. Ah, the theme of the dream should have clued me in. I'm on a spaceship. Theme of the dream. Unless you're an astronaut, the theme of the dream is your dream sign. If you are in a different country that you've never even been before. I've never been to Japan, but I often dream I'm in Japan. I've never been. That's a thematic dream sign, right? So be big one-off things, or like this doesn't quite fit, I should have known. Or it can be recurring. And this is if you have recurring dream signs, man, you have got the lucky pot of gold. And a recurring dream sign can be anything. It's just something that like something that's a bit unusual that recurs. Obviously, we have recurring dream signs like I was me in a body. Yeah, but same in waking life, right? So we're trying to find things that are distinct. So if you have a loved one who's passed away and you always see them in your dream, it's an excellent recurring dream sign. Like I always see, my beloved grandmother or my friend or my pet. That's a recurring dream sign. If you have like actually one of the dream signs for me, I wish I had a cooler dream sign because I'm always like a little embarrassed. This is my big dream sign, but I often dream that I'm trying to find a toilet in the public, and I'm out at a restaurant or something, and I'm looking for a restroom, but then like the toilet's like in the middle of the restaurant with no doors around it, like, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, or it's like this, it's something about a public restroom with no privacy, and it's a really strong recurring dream sign. And we'll talk about state checks in a minute because I've learned how to tether some of my practices to it. Pretty much every time I'm looking for a restroom in my dreams now, I will get lucid. So recurring, something that repeats, that you can work with, that you can go, if I'm seeing this, I'm probably dreaming. So when you do your dream journal, as well as paying attention to the dreaming mind and building this relationship, you're becoming like Inspector Clouseau. It's like looking around and you're really beginning to understand where in your dreams are these clues. And you're beginning to be committed to saying, that's a dream sign. So next time I see that, or next time there, I know that I'm dreaming. Again, we're training the metacognitive awareness. So when you are in a dream, because you've been going dream sign, dream sign, dream sign, you're going to be in the dream, you're going to be back at school and go, wait a second, back at school, deja vu. I'm having a weird feeling of deja vu because if I'm back at school, it's a dream sign because I'm in a dream. And then you lose it. So if you work with your dream journaling and your dream signs as a way of the attention building, super, super, super good. Any questions about dream journaling and dream signs? Oh, Marguerite says, what do you do in, oh, no, we really are. We're getting to that. Dream signs. Yeah, Oliver. Hello.
Hi. Regarding the dream science, I always find it feels a lot like homework to do it, and it's not a lot of fun. And because they're for me all one-off, it
Right.
feels just like yeah, I have some resistance to it because I'm like, yeah, of course, that's a weird sign. That's a weird sign. Of course, I know this is a weird sign. Why do I have to mark
So,
this
so
note
most of your
in my
dream
book?
signs are just kind of like one-off things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one recurring one, but this one I know now. But the
But
rest is.
I can imagine that. Yeah. So if you're finding that you just have one-offs, I could understand how that could be like, what's the point? Because how can I
Yeah.
use this predictively? So here's an invitation for you. One thing I have noticed for clients who don't have content that recurs. So for instance, a specific person who comes over and over again or whatever, go one
Mm.
layer deeper. And this is the layer I work at because I find it more effective. Look at the emotional tone of your dreams. Like look at okay, let's say you're at an airport, but what was the feeling? And you'll
Mm.
usually find in your dreams that even where the content is completely different, there will be a few key emotional tones that play out in your dreams. And the emotional tone can become the dream sign you use. We'll talk about that, how we tether them. It's a little more nuanced. You have to be a little more attuned to your system, but it's more powerful because your dream tones, like your emotional tones, they will repeat way more than any content will repeat. So if the dream sign, the anomalous stuff, just don't bother. Like don't do something that's homework. It's going to kill your love for this. Just kill it. Go a level deeper and see what you can find there.
Cool. Yeah, sounds cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Oliver. Excellent. Any other questions here? I'm just checking. How many years of dream sign data do we need? I like you, Ian. You're like, how many years is this? Like 2 weeks? You don't need years. You need, obviously, over the years, you develop a better idea. But what you're looking for here is mostly just patterns. And so within a couple of weeks, you'll start to see patterns. And like we're saying with Oliver, let's say you can't see patterns of content, content being like a place, a person, a dirt. Blah, 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 blah. Look for the pattern of the emotion. I'm always lost looking for something. My car's lost, my keys are lost. I'm trying to get somewhere, but I can't seem to get there. I have social anxiety. I'm dealing with people, and it doesn't seem to be going well. You look at the emotional, or it could be good. Like one of my key emotional tones is adventure. I have like this like quest, fantasy quest adventure tone because I read a lot of fantasy books. Where like I'm with a team and we have swords and we're going like it's like an or we're on a spaceship and we're fighting aliens. I have an adventure tone. Look at the tones. So look at the patterns. The cool thing is you'll notice if you track over years, especially when you're working actively with your dreams, your patterns will change, right? So, yeah, just it's a couple weeks is enough to really begin. How to interpret dream patterns or symbols. Yeah. So this is super cool. Because your dreams are really in a symbolic register. Like think about what the dreaming mind does, right? The dreaming mind takes everything it knows about you, the world, what it knows about how you feel about the world, what your deepest inner thoughts are about specific things, objects, and people. It understands all of the meaning making that you are layering on top of reality. And then it takes that as a language and it constructs these experiences, these narratives, and it puts you in them. And you're this like, so you are immersed in the symbolic universe and language of your dreams. Super important is that while, yes, we do have some shared collective stuff because we have a shared culture, we have a shared language, your dream symbols are super bespoke. So, for instance, you asked about a suitcase. What I always say when people are interpreting their dreams, non-lucid, lucid, whatever, what does, like, break it down to like, okay, when I feel into that suitcase, first of all, what, like, there's a difference between, if I think for myself, a bright blue, fancy Tumi suitcase or old, broken, leather, cracked suitcase. Like, what suitcase, right? And then, like, how did you feel about the suitcase? Like, what was the feeling about the suitcase? Now, here it comes really subjectively. Let's say Laurel, let's say for Laurel, she's a massive traveler. She loves to travel. Travel is freedom and excitement. It's like, so that's a different symbol. A suitcase in that context could be a symbol of freedom, agency. Let's say you were someone who were forced to leave your home. Let's say you were evicted from your country or your house and you had to pack everything in a suitcase and go. A suitcase could mean something very different. And so, what I would encourage you to do is to explore your own internal connotations about everything. Before you go ask ChatGPT or get a dream symbol book, like first feel into what did it feel like for me? That's why emotional tone with dreams is so important, right? And then when you look at it in that context, you will be able to answer your own questions around the symbology. The example I always give is one lucid dream. One of my lucid dreams, I was like, I didn't have a strong dream plan. So I was like, take me to the parts of myself that need the most love. And it took me to a swimming pool. It plonked me into a swimming pool, like a kind of a normal indoor swimming pool. And in that swimming pool were like 8 figures in different kind of outfits, all like sitting in the pool. And I was like, that's weird. And I went around and I hugged them, I integrated them. But afterwards I was like, what? And then I realized I hate swimming. like swimming pool. I hate them. Like for me, when I think of an indoor swimming pool, it's literally like it was punishment for me as a child. Like I had to go to swimming and I hated it. And so, of course, where are all the parts of myself that needed the most love? They were all relegated to the swimming pool, the swimming pool of despair, right? Like, oh, but that's my symbology. If you grew up loving swimming, it was a super happy place for you, you have a very different experience. So when it comes to symbology, highly recommend that. Okay, let's keep tracking. So next, talking about ticka, 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 inductions. So working with the nighttime. And here, again, let's returning to like the standard lucid dreaming trainings. While I do recommend over time building a proper entry into sleep practice, so taking half an hour before you fall asleep to clear the body, shake out the energy, consolidate, you know, put the phones away. Before that, and if we are traveling and we can't do anything, this simple technique of using an induction is still one of the most powerful. And so for these are the example inductions. If you're working on dream recall, it could be something like, tonight I choose to remember my dreams. Or I open to the dreaming mind. I remember so many dreams. Or dreaming mind, I surrender to you. Help me to see and understand. Inductions are like little magic spells, right? Use the language that makes sense to you, but write it out so that you have clarity, and then you're going to say that induction over and over again. To do lucidity induction, so I want to get lucid tonight, it could be, I know that I'm dreaming as I'm dreaming. I recognize I'm dreaming and get lucid. If you want to use a dream sign or something like that, like the next time I am looking for a toilet in public, I know that I'm dreaming. Dreaming mind, ask for your help, get me lucid. The key thing here is that when you are setting an intention, it just has to feel right to you. That's why I put so many examples, because I always get my clients to write their own. Like write it in the language that makes sense to you. And here, thinking back to the causes and conditions, if you find, for instance, you're like, man, I don't feel very safe with my dreaming mind, or I don't feel very close with my dreaming mind. It's much better to have an induction that's something more like, hey, dreaming mind, help me to become your friend. Show me the dreams. Or hey, dreaming mind, help me to feel safe and surrender. Hey, dream mind, I trust you. It's better to create a induction that strengthens or addresses directly where you might be struggling. On the other hand, if you are buzzing with your dreams and you feel great, but you're not getting lucid that much, whatever, you might want to go for a really sharp lucidity induction, right? I know that I'm dreaming as I'm dreaming. I recognize my dreams and get lucid. You're cranking up the metacognitive awareness, right? So again, this is why it's so important for you to understand what's going to be the right medicine and the right balance for your practice. But either way, how you want to work with the induction is choose the induction, write it out, and then we're going to use this as you fall asleep. So again, harnessing the power of that hypnotic state of the hypnagogic. As you get into bed, I recommend to take a position that's not your normal sleep position first, just for the zonkers, the people who zonk out. So if you're like I tend to fall asleep on my right side. When I do my inductions, I lie on my back, a little bit propped up. So I can lie there, close my eyes, take some nice deep breaths, just allow myself to kind of drop a little bit. And then I'm going to start saying that induction, whatever intention I'm setting, repeating it. If my husband's next to me, I probably just say it internally. But if I'm by myself, I might chant it out loud. I recognize I'm dreaming. I get lucid tonight. I recognize I'm dreaming. I get lucid tonight. And you repeat that over and over. How many times? The Buddhists say 21. So you can welcome to do 21. I think if it's more achieving a certain state. So if like right now, say out loud, yes, yes. And feel like, what does yes feel like in your body? Yes. Say no, no, ooh, no. They have like different feelings to them. You want to get to where you feel like a yes. So when you say, tonight I get lucid, I recognize my dreams, It feels how yes feels. And that can take a little practice. And you might notice, for instance, like people do this. Tonight I get lucid, I recognize my dreams. Tonight I get lucid, I recognize dreams. Tonight I get lucid, I recognize the dreams. How well do you reckon that works? Right? It's like nothing. You're using the language and you're using the intention to prime your system. So mean it. Say it and mean it. I would rather you did 5 repetitions that you meant and that brought you to a yes in your body than 100 repetitions that were like blah, 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 blah. Right? So quality over quantity. Remembering that you are essentially, you're planting the seed that sets the intention that flows into the night. And you can use intention to induce different dreams. So like if you want to incubate a dream, right? Like, I really want to dream tonight about this. Use a picture. If you want to ride an elephant, take a picture of an elephant and look at it before you go to sleep. Visualize it. As you're falling asleep, tonight I ride elephants in my dreams. Tonight I ride elephants in my dreams. You can play with this moment of intention to do anything. So know it's the fertile moment. So choosing again, am I working on my relationship with the dream? Remembering dreams, lucidity, a specific experience. So choose your own adventure. Any question about intention setting? Next one here. I asked my dream, I chose safety. We'll get to state checks in a second. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So that's perfect. So then let's jump into dream planning. So here you'll see a dream plan that I've done. I always show this one because it's like it's so basic in terms of its artistry. Dream plans don't have to be works of art, but what we create with a dream plan is essentially a written, handwritten, preferably, plan for what we're going to do when we get lucid. So I'll come back to this. I'm going to teach you the elements first. And Margarita asked this earlier around like, well, what do you do? Okay, let's say we get lucid. And like, honestly, with this group here, 116 people, yeah, some of y'all are getting lucid tonight. So, and you don't know who. You don't know, it might be you, it might be you. So this is, and I laugh because my husband gets lucid by osmosis. We always say like he's been just learning and getting lucid, but he hasn't yet created a dream mission. So what happens? He gets lucid and then he's like, oops. So dream planning, creating a dream mission does 2 things. It harnesses our motivation. When you have a good reason to get lucid, when you know, when I get lucid tonight, I'm going to, and it's something that excites you. Even if it's like, I'm going to fly and I'm going to stand on the top of the pyramids. And I just can't, I'm going to, like I used to do, I'm going to summon a centaur. I want to see a centaur in real life, like the feeling. I'm going to eat the most delicious white chocolate cake. It can be as simple as a pleasure, a joy, or it could be something that's about, working with your own psychology, right? I'm going to summon my self-doubt. I'm going to summon my creativity. I'm going to summon my higher self. I'm going to summon an aspect of my shadow, right? We can work with the psychological aspects of who we are. Or you can say, well, listen, I actually want to learn about the nature of reality. In a dream, you get to, this is part of the main part of the Buddhist training when you first start doing dream yoga, get lucid, and then you go, wow. I mean, one of the first realizations you have is it's so real. Like in a dream, you could go up and touch things and be like, it feels real. The texture, the taste, like everything is so hyper real, but this is a dream. And so you start to go, cool, well, what if I walked through this wall that seems really solid? What would it take? How would I have to adjust my perspective to see through the illusion of a dream? What if I was to take this object and make it bigger with my mind or smaller or make many of them with my mind? You essentially start to practice the siddhas, right? The kind of like magical practices within the dream by using the strength of your intention and mind. You start to do these practices that you can collapse time and space. You can invert gravity. And by doing that, you are teaching the neuroplasticity of your mind to see through the illusion of matter. This gets pretty out there, but it's like, just for context, and this is really cool. I was talking to the neuroscientist that I do these studies with, and we were talking about the difference of like what's happening in the brain when you get lucid. The minute you get lucid, your brain, not the mind, but the brain registers that experience like you've woken up in waking state. And it writes and it grooves everything that happens to you in that lucid dream as if it happened to you in waking state. So the neuroplasticity that comes online when you get lucid is extraordinary. That's why you can learn skills in a lucid dream, right? You can improve your physical skills. You can improve your muscle mass working out in a lucid dream. It has this very interesting correlation because it writes the memory of your dream differently. When you're non-lucid, it doesn't like record it the same way. That's why we tend to remember our lucid dreams a lot more than our non-lucid dreams. It's literally stored as a waking state memory, right? Holy moly. So take that and then imagine what happens when you learn, like your brain is like, this is waking state, and you learn how to move through matter, or you learn how to transform the self out of the human body into something else, or you learn how to integrate with archetypal deities, whether that's the deity of, like working with the qualities of Jesus or the Buddha or Beyonce, right? Like whatever it is. What happens when you practice unconditional love to the monsters in your mind? What happens when you walk fearlessly through fire and your brain is remembering and recording this as same as a waking state memory? I mean, this is the stuff we're exploring with the studies, right? What is the impact? So you could really choose to do something like that. Or spiritual practice. Do qigong in a dream. It's the best. You actually like this real chi. It's like it's crazy. Qigong, meditation, like bring your prayer in, like whatever it is. Whatever you feel inspired by, that why will help you get lucid. So having a clear dream plan, a clear objective and a dream, oh, this is what I want to do tonight. That's going to like really get the motivational system going. You're much more likely to induce lucidity. So that's one part of it. But the other part, of course, is that when you get lucid, if you have prepared something ahead of time, you've got clarity around it, you follow the process we're going to go through, when you get lucid, you're going to have a much higher capacity to stay lucid and to then actually collaborate within that dream effectively. So, very basically, like how we would sort of recommend doing a dream mission is first of all, choose what you want to do. That can be the hardest part. Choose something that really excites you, really moves you, really motivates you. And then write it out, like visualize it. You can kind of write it. Writing is better. Tonight, when I get lucid, let's work with let's work with the basic one around flying. Tonight, when I get lucid, I put my hands up into the air and I fly up into the sky, up into the stars and beyond. And I look back down on planet Earth and I'm filled with wonder. I wake up feeling full of joy and life and inspiration, right? It's like write it out as like a little thing. Then you're going to draw a picture of it. And the drawing is really important, right? Because again, remember, the dreaming mind, not big on words. Dreaming mind, much bigger on symbolism, images. And there's something like also dreaming mind is kind of like the inner child. So just that's why you see with my picture here, it's just a stick figure. It doesn't have to be, I mean, if you are an artist, do better. but but this is the standard here. So here with this one here, first of all, just for context, up the top there where I've got name, walk, slap, spin, that's a technique we can't cover today, which is a stabilization practice. That's what that is, but we'll touch on that another time. But down to, you have my image here, and then you have what is like the call to action, or we call like the Sanskrit word is a sankalpa. It's a strong, heartfelt desire. And you want to come up with one clear sentence, even just a couple words that capture your dream, right? So here, what I'm doing here is I'm summoning my inner child. So my command is mirror, appear, because I want to summon a mirror. I summon my inner child. Mirror, appear. I summon my inner child. When I get lucid, I call that out to the dream. And because the mind is incredible and thought responsive and the dream is a collaborative partner, it summons a mirror, right? I'm like, cool, amazing. I summon my inner child. And then something appears in the mirror. then I have here the next step. So for me, I was like, okay, I want to integrate my inner child. So I use the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sending love, all the little hearts, love, 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 love. And then it integrates over here. So that's how I'm visualizing this to happen. And remember, when we do our dream plans, they're like ideal. They're like, this is the ideal. Doesn't always go that way. But by starting with that intention and just being responsive, you'll end up somewhere beautiful. But having a fully visualized, planned out map is going to help so much. The most important parts of your dream plan are this part here, the strong call to action that captures your experience, and then just the feeling about it. Because what you want to happen in the dream when you get lucid, and many of you can attest to this, wow, you get lucid in the dream, whoa, like it can be quite an experience just to gain lucidity. And sometimes that excitement can wake us up, right? And so it can also make us not know how to remember things. So what we want to do is get lucid and go, and just like we would during the day, just take a deep breath. When you're dreaming, your eyes and your breath, you still have conscious control over your eyes and your breath. So if you take a slow breath in the dream, you'll take a slow breath in your body. Okay, just walk and breathe. And then you're going to go, okay, what was my dream plan? What was my mission? What was I going to do? Think of my sankalpa. Fly. Oh, yeah, that's right. Fly, 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 fly. Right, summon a mirror for my dream child. Mirror, appear. So creating and mapping it out on a piece of paper in a simple, clear form and repeating that to yourself, working with your dream plan is going to really, really help you. I always have a dream plan right next to my bed, right? And so before I do my inductions at night, it can be super helpful. Take like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, reconnect. What am I doing tonight? Oh, yeah, cool, amazing. Connect to the excitement. Repeat the Sankalpa out loud. Mirror appear, I summon my inner child. Mirror appear, I summon my inner child. Extra points if you just rehearse it. Actual bodily rehearsal is unbelievably effective because when you're in the dream, it feels like you're in a body. Your body memory kicks in. So reconnect to your dream mission, do your induction, and go to sleep. But a dream mission is fundamental. If you're doing all the other practices, but you don't have clarity around what you want to do, your likelihood of getting lucidity is less, and your likelihood of doing something meaningful in the dream or staying in the dream is much lower. So, dream mission? Questions about dream missions? Felicitas, I think you had a question about what happened when I called my shadow in a dream, but you don't know if that's the moment for your question. It is the moment for your question if you want to. Oliver.
Yeah, I was wondering about the dream mission. So I have a dream mission, but when I got lucid, my dream told me like, no. Should I keep going with it or should I just
What
stop
what
it?
was how did it say no? I'm curious.
So I tried to summon Shenresin, and
Hi.
there was a loudspeaker saying like I should just do it after my fourth lucid dream, and I think I had more than four. Maybe it's like when I tried to argue with it, it was not so happy. So
Right. It's so
yeah,
interesting, right? Because so I had it for a long time. I had a hierarchy problem in my dream where when I first started trying to do spiritual practices like summoning a deity, right? I would get obstructed by people with clipboards or police officers who were essentially like, you can't do that here. And
yeah,
I was like, huh? And so sometimes we have, sometimes I'd say we have internal self-doubt systems. For me, that's what it was. Like I actually had to address giving myself permission to do something that epic. So for me, it was an internal thing. Other times, our dream is protecting us for a safety reason. So again, you'll have to feel into like, is this one of those kind of like, the whole idea of like we construct these levels of the path because we've been taught this way, like through school. Well, you have to go to grade A to go to grade B, and if some part of us doesn't fully embrace that you are a powerful spiritual being who can summon. So I call that I use the Avalokiteshvara version of Tantric, that you can summon them. Then sometimes we enforce these like funny rules. No, four dreams first. No. So what I would encourage you to do is feel into it and say, okay, does this feel like the dream giving me genuine feedback that I need to like keep learning? In which case, go, cool, you know what? I'm going to keep learning. Or feel into, you know what? No, does that feel like I created like an arbitrary block for myself? In which case, you can resolve it by doing things like writing a letter to the dreaming mind. Like, hey, I know this, and like reaffirm, say, but you know, I like in this moment, like I released that, and I'm ready for this, and focus on the visualization. It took me like 4 or 5 dream missions to do my first, to be able to summon Avalokiteshvara for the first time. It took me forever because I had to meet all these subtle internal obstacles to spirituality. But they're the clue. Like that's the cool thing, Oliver, is like you're like, ooh, you just got your next clue either way. So
Cool, thank you.
yeah, feel into it and then play around with it. Oh, completely random in case it's helpful. What I ended up finding to be one of the most helpful ways for summoning, or specifically Avalokiteshvara, but I've worked this with certain clients as well, was instead of being like the classic "come to me," I would work with the mantra. So I would chant, in this case, Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha, Gate Gate Paragat, and I access the devotional energy of how I would work with that during the day, and they arose naturally. So we can also find, like with Jesus Christ, working with the prayer, working with certain Christian prayers, you can find other ways that kind of bypass the like, it's about me, bring it to me. And that can sometimes be really helpful. Yeah. Good luck. Felicitas. Hi,
Hello.
hi.
Hey. I guess you already in some way answered my question partly because I've been I called my shadow and my actual dream plan was to call an embodied sense of self-love. Um, and I don't know why I ended up just calling out my shadow, and I know I've been avoiding it. Um, and yeah, there was this instant moment of dark clouds coming and
Mm.
these jets coming, and I started getting afraid. And in my mind, I thought of what I read in this lucid dreaming book that so it's important to face it. It's good to call out for things, for fears and all of that, but it's important to face it. And if I don't face it, it can be disempowering or disencouraging. And so this thought came into my mind, what if I don't have the courage to face it? And with this thought, I woke up, um,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I was still kind of proud because I knew I was like, oh, I still called my shadow, um, but I now I'm kind of like, I mean, yeah, this kind of question, or like how. I mean, I know the what if part is probably also just what you spoke to it. This kind of, it can be the self-sabotage
But do
mechanism.
not worry about like do not worry about that because I can't tell you how many times I have been working with a particular dream mission or done a spontaneous one like that. And the first time I did it, it did not work out.
Mm.
I remember when I first was working with my sexual shadow, the first time I summoned it, I got so scared I woke up. The second time I summoned it, it's because it had a parade of like very scary creatures coming out before the shadow. So this crazy, scary kind of clown music would come on, and out would come these very disturbing figures. So the first time I just woke up. The second time, exact same thing happened. I managed to stay with it longer. So like, but then as I could feel the shadow itself coming out, again I woke up in fear. But here's what we do. We just go, okay, cool. Like this, whatever it is that I'm facing has like a real, it catalyzes real fear in me. So what I need to do is create more safety in my body and more visualize, I'll visualize more strongly and go back into it. I
Mm.
don't think there's any harm. Like if you wake up out of a dream, it wasn't finished, don't be discouraged. Like none of this is unfinished business. And so seeing it instead as like a learning opportunity of like, okay, cool, I need to prepare myself more. I need to make sure that I have tools so that as the shadow comes, whether it's clouds or monsters or whatever, right? That I know how to stay lucid. I am in a dream. This is a dream. Nothing can hurt me here. everything in front of me is me. Whatever I see is an unloved part of me wanting to be loved. I have the capacity to bring unconditional acceptance to anything in front of me. With my clients, we train something called the automatic compassion response. It's literally a practice. I get them to do a meditation where you learn how to cultivate a sense of power and safety and love in your body by chanting something. You can choose, it
Mm.
could be a word. I use the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. When the shadow starts to come out, I stand in the dream and I chant that, and I create so much love and compassion in my field that I can face it. So if we're gonna face things that are, like scary, we become the compassionate bodhisattva warriors by preparing for it skillfully. And when you do that, and you can do that during the daytime, right? We just practice, we practice. You visualize, you imagine calling shadow come to me. You imagine it coming and imagine the fear, and you practice. It's like every epic fantasy you've ever seen, right? We have to galvanize the best qualities of ourselves. And then what happens, of course, every time when you can bring that energy and they meet together, there's transformation. So I'd say it just means like you need to dig deep and go, okay, how can I strengthen the love, the safety, the power in my heart to meet whatever it is that I'm going to meet? And that might take practice. It might take a week. It might take a month. It might take a year. But you know what's really cool? We have pretty much our whole lives and probably next life too. So
Thank you. Yeah, I
yes.
was looking for some kind of practice to, yeah, to anchor
I can
safety.
send out, there's actually the automatic compassion response is guided meditation. I'll send it out after this too. You can use that practice to do it. It's the actual guided meditation track that will help you to learn how to bring that online, and then you create your own phrase to go with it. And if you practice it over and over again, and you do it in the dream, it's unbelievable.
Hmm.
It's how
Thanks.
it's how I've eaten so many zombies. Thanks, listeners. Awesome. Um, Patrick says, what would you say that writing out and drawing out and acting out a dream mission are three of the most powerful daytime practices to incubate a specific dream? Yes, I would. I would say that. Yes. I think drawing out, visualizing, and acting out a dream mission is literally one of the most powerful practices, not just for incubating a dream, but for activating lucidity too. So this is one of those things that I'm like, at all times, if you are a lucid dreamer, you should be keeping a dream journal. You should be doing inductions at night. You should have an active, exciting dream mission. And then one more thing, which is the last thing we'll get to right now, we should be doing skillful state checks. And this bit comes to the waking state lucidity. Oh my God, I can't believe it's so close to the end of the time. Sorry, friends. I thought 2 hours would be enough for us, but this is, stuff's so good. So skillful state checks is like the last of what I'd say is like the absolute non-negotiables foundations, because this is about helping us to connect that metacognitive awareness that we're cultivating during the day, to connect that to the dream state too. So cultivating lucidity and connecting it. Super important. Basic thing for a skillful state check. A state check is an awesome technique. I sometimes think of it almost like a training wheel, because it leverages the neurological differences between the brain state and the waking state to literally let us check, where are we? Am I in the dreaming state or am I in the waking state? If you've ever seen Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio uses the spinner. He has a spinning top, he spins, and if he's in the dream, it just keeps spinning forever because there's like infinite physics. If he's in waking state, the spinning top stops. That's his state check. That wouldn't work in the context of actual dream practice, but these will. So first of all, breaking it down to three pieces. The very, very first and sometimes the most important and the hardest part of the state check is remembering to do it. It's just remembering, because we get so non-lucid in our day, right? I usually say to my clients, like, you should be doing, 8 to 10 high quality state checks a day. I go through a day sometimes, I'm like, I didn't do one. I get to bed, I'm like, I was completely asleep all day long. right? And so remembering is actually far more of a active step than you realize. So to do this, like, first of all, I want to say to you, okay, you want to remember, we want to work our way up to remembering to do this practice 10 times a day. The practice itself is like 20 seconds, right? So this is not a time consuming thing, but this is about creating those pockets of awareness and awakening. But we have to remember to do them. So, a couple ways we can remember. We can use some external reminders. So, when we start to build the habit, you can set an alarm on your phone, let's say for 3 times a day, when you know you're going to be somewhere private, quiet, not in a meeting. And you can just say to yourself, listen, I commit. When that alarm on my phone goes off, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to stop and do a state check. So that's one of the kind of most hardcore interruptive ways. Again, to build the habit over time, we obviously like to like drop that away, but to start, it's really helpful. External reminders can be using sticky notes. Take a sticky note and draw a funny face on it and stick them in places, in cupboards, the toilet seat. Put them in places where you're going to forget so that when you go and you open, remember, do a state check. So you can use little reminders like that. You can put something on your hand. I used to have these tattoos, temporary tattoos that say, am I? And they're really ugly and black and look like a spider. And so I'd stick it on my hand and you'd just be there and I'd be like, oh, what the fuck? Oh, okay, right. So think you can be creative about the ways that you have external reminders. So you can use some external reminders. But here's where it gets really cool. You can use tethering. So back to dream signs, like I was talking with Oliver, let's say with an emotional dream sign, let's say with my theme of adventure. If at any point during the day, I have a sense of adventure, my husband and I jump in the car and we're going to the beach, I feel that sense of adventure, that emotional tone, that's a reminder for me to check where I am, right? Because I'm tethering my dream sign. Anytime I'm looking for a toilet in public, I'm in a restaurant, I want to go to the bathroom, I do a state check. I remember to do a state check. Why? You're pairing activities with things that you're doing in the dream so that you're going to do it in the dream, right? So that's the most intelligent way to do this, the state check reminder. Tell yourself, this is my dream sign. Every time I see that in my waking state, I'm going to remember to do a state check. The other way to do it is the anomaly way. Like anytime something weird or dreamlike happens, if you're going through a day and then something super, like there's some strange experience, you're like, that's crazy, or you have deja vu, remember to do a state check. That was weird. Weird. State check. Deja vu. Deja vu. State check. So if you can start to tether the remembering to dreamlike experiences and to dream signs, you're going to leverage into lucidity really quickly. But when you build the habit, make sure you have a few of those external reminders too, so that you're getting that kind of like 10 a day. So remembering is the first piece, and like set that up. Set yourself up to win. Have a plan for how you're going to remember to do it 10 times a day. And the next two steps kind of go together. Activate lucidity and then check your state. And again, these two, like all of this together takes 20 seconds and we can do it together now. So let's say either you had an alarm go off, you saw a sticky note, you saw your special dream bangle reminded you, something weird happened, you saw a dream sign, whatever. You're like, it's time to do a state check. This is where we want to start strengthening our metacognition. So what you want to do in that moment is just stop for a second, and you want to open, like opening the span of your apprehension. So getting out of like where we were, a great way to do this is to use the senses. Open the eyes. Look, like allow yourself to see to the periphery of your vision. Listen all around you. Come into your body, like allow the physical senses of the body to bring you into the present moment. Out of the thought stream, into like, whoa. Look around at your room and notice something you've never seen before. Now, if you're someone who has some other way that like to like activate lucidity, do that. If you're someone who if singing a big note, like one of my clients had like a great 5-note sequence, and then when she sang that, she was fully lucid. Another client would get up and do a certain dance move, and so play with it, but activating lucidity. And the feeling, if you're a meditator, if you're someone who's really trained with meditation, you could do it very quietly. You could just sit down, go into your open awareness, delaminate awareness from attention, right? You know what's going to get you present. The feeling is, I am right here, right now, fully engaged, lucid. So activate that in yourself first. And if this is new to you, it might take 60 seconds to do that. But as you become more practiced, like it takes 5 seconds, right? And this is why it's so cool. It's like we're asleep until we're not, and we can wake ourselves up in like 3.2 seconds. So activate lucidity. That is super important. Most people teach state checks. They're going to go straight to the techniques. If you don't activate that sense of awareness, that's what gets you lucid in a dream. Doing like a physical technique or a state check, you can do that in a dream if you're not really awake and aware and miss it completely. So don't miss this step. And the next step is to do, what's called the state check, which is it's an activity, activity of focus that's going to help you know where you are. So all the way back, I think it was Jeff, maybe? Sorry, Jerry was mentioning about Don Juan, and Carlos Castaneda has the classic thing of, the instruction in the Toltec tradition of like, find your hands in your dreams. There's a really good reason for this. And this is one of the state check I will encourage you to work with because it's easiest. Your hands are super detailed. And when you're in a dream, a non-lucid dream, the left hemisphere of the brain is mostly dormant. And that's the part of the brain that deals with detail, patterns, text, letters, numbers. This is why, a dream, it can be, you read something and you're like, whoa, it's wiggly and it changes. You look back and it's different. You try to read the time and you're on your, the brain is not great at like holding and replicating fine pattern. So we leverage this because if you look at your hands right now, put it out, choose a point of detail on your hand, like a cluster of wrinkles or a dot or a ring, and look at it like you are playing spot the difference. So like look at it and really take note like you're taking a photograph. You just like 1, 2, 3, flip the hand over, flip it back. Did anything change? Even do it again, flip it over, flip it back. And if you're really paying attention, you've got your lucidity online and you're looking. For me, nothing changed. The details are really consistent. So I'm going to take a pretty good bet we're in waking state. So I'll say, cool, okay, you know what? I'm in waking state. I've checked my state. I did my state check. I'm in waking state. If you do that in a dream, because the brain can't hold and replicate the same degree of detail, the craziest shit will happen to your hands. That's why in this picture I have the lobster. The very first time I did this technique in a lucid dream, my hands turned into lobster claws. More commonly, you'll like lose a finger, have an extra finger, the fingers will grow. Like you'll be like, whoa, it's not my hand, right? If you're paying attention. So this is such an easy way to check where we are. And this is where we tether it all together, right? So we go, cool. I'm walking down the road and I pop into a little cafe and they have a bathroom and I go, oh, I should use the bathroom. And I go, public bathroom. State check. Activate my lucidity, break myself out of the pattern. I'm really here, cool. Now where am I? Am I dreaming or am I in waking state? Let me check. Okay, nothing changed. I think I'm in waking state. That's the whole process, right? But if you do that 10 times a day, and especially if you tether it to like when things are weird or dream signs or anything connected with your dreams, deja vu, anything like that, before you even realize it, you're going to do that. And this happened to me so many times where I do it. I don't even have an inclination that I'm dreaming. I'm just like, oh, I should do it because I'm doing my state checks. And I do that and I lose a finger. And boom, I'm lucid. So tethering this, like your activation of lucid awareness during the day to something in the dream, and then using the check, which will help you know exactly where you are, that's going to be magic medicine for getting you lucid. And especially if you're someone who has the experience of like, I think I'm in a dream. Oh, am I dreaming? Am I not dreaming? Do the check, right? If you have pre-lucid experiences and you do this check in the dream, it'll get you fully lucid. So spring, yeah. So Felicitas was like, she had spring onions for fingers. Raven said had no hands. Crazy stuff happens. So just quick recap around this, the kind of traditional foundational practices that we can use here for connection and building relationship with the dreaming mind. Our dream journals are super important, and paying attention to our dream signs or the tone of our dreams, the quality of our dreams, right? Or anything that is a listening practice. And then during the day, we're really focusing on the brightening and the sharpening of that lucidity. You can use the state checks to do this to connect the two. But if you have a meditation practice, especially like an open eye awareness practice or even a concentration or monitoring practice, anything that trains your ability to hold a fuller aware perspective and to hold that degree of concentration is going to help with that. And then nighttime, really seeing is like going into the experience of the night instead of just being like, oh, my fucking day and let me get out of here. Taking, even if it's just 5 minutes, to enter intentionally, taking your dream plan, looking at it. This is why I'm lucid dreaming tonight. This is so important to me. I'm so excited. Setting the intention. Tonight, I recognize I'm dreaming. I get lucid and I fly. Tonight, I recognize I'm dreaming. I get lucid and I fly. And then releasing into sleep. And repeating that, even just that, those are like the basic foundations. It's like a billion other techniques we can use to bolster lucidity and activate it. But that in itself will build this rising tide that lifts all boats. So seeing all of those techniques ultimately within the context of how do they support your connection, your safety with the dream, and how do they support your brightness of mind, your ability to recognize where you are, and how does it support connecting the two together? And approaching it that way, you can be your own self-facilitator and guide with these practices. And it becomes really fun. Instead of feeling frustrated, we become curious, we become our own kind of explorers of the mind, we become our own scientists, and we feel fully empowered to design, create, and invent anything we need to make it work. It was so good to see you all, and thank you for being in this together. I'm sorry, as usual, we just couldn't get it all in one session, but reminded in 2 weeks' time, I have an amazing interview with a doctor talking about like the deep causes and conditions of sleep stuff. So if you have ever had issues falling asleep, staying asleep, length of dreams, make sure you come. That's in 2 weeks' time. It's a free interview. And then next month, we will continue our workshops together. So good to see you all. Beautiful week's practice, and I'll see you back here soon.